Do you struggle with putting yourself first? Are you tired of feeling burnt out and overwhelmed from constantly putting the needs of others before your own? I have created a sacred space that will be available once a week for 10 weeks to learn, dive deep, and create your boundaries to boost your confidence and self-worthiness. Go to www.krista-luna.com and sign up for the Master Your Boundaries course starting in September 2023. And use the code PARANORMAL to get 30% off today on www.crista-luna.com.
I see ghosts, specters all around me. Living a star, blazing the dark. One by one, pictures gather round me. Where those moonflowers used to lost no more. Specters gather round here, living a star, blazing the dark. Night by night, stare into the black where moonflowers used to grow.
Well, check it out, y'all. We got what you need. We're all living in apartments, condos, vans. Well, dude, even you can have a studio in a box. Yes, we can help you with that right here at Blind Knowledge. We work on your budget and we figure out your measurements. We'll get you the best sound for the best price. Let me know, 877-237-1143 or at blindknowledge.com. Yep.
Welcome back to the second episode of Paranormal New Normal today. I know you guys are getting treated good today. Come buy me some stuff. I don't know. But I am your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make the world a little more normal. Does it ever happen on this show? Nah, sometimes. Sometimes. Not usually, though. We try. And today, I don't think we're going to succeed in that at all. Like, I just don't. But we'll see. Normal is relevant. That's what I like to say. But enough about me. As always, I have a guest to help me on this epic quest I take. And my guest today is Gazit Chaya Nkosi, an author, an ET experiencer, and we're going to get more into both those in a little bit. But first things first, how are you doing tonight?
I am excited for this, and I am dealing with a little bit of a sore throat, so my apologies if my voice is a little creaky.
As a smoker, I understand 100%, so no worries. So let me ask you the question I asked everybody in the beginning of this show. What got you into the paranormal spiritual world?
Yeah, I think I was just born this way. I actually was raised in super fundamentalist evangelical Christianity. So I had a right off the bat, like there was a conversation about God and angels and Satan and, entities that we couldn't see. So I think that gave me a framework within which to begin to explore. But I always felt like extremely connected to the ideas of supernatural. I was really fascinated by miracles and read a lot about like early Christian saints when I was really little. I was into like, situations where God would suddenly provide people with things that they didn't have or make people invisible or heal people. I loved all of that. And when I was little, ET was really huge, and I just immediately connected with that. And then later when Contact came out, I was obsessed with that. So I was always a person who said, I believe in everything. And I was a real imaginative kid. And now I think I was probably time traveling, like for real, when I was thinking I was imagining. But then I just, spent a lot of time alone and pretending that I was going all sorts of different places. So I was like always connected to it.
Well, it's funny. I hear that more than anything, that people are just born connected to, which it's true. People are. I mean, there's a reason children are more susceptible to all this stuff than we are.
Yeah.
But It's just those who grow out of it and those who don't.
Yeah.
Growing up in homes like the one you grew up in, usually the story is they got out of it for a little while because they were pretty much forced to by parents. Because, as a great man once said, parents just don't understand. So, all right. Well, the second question I ask everybody is, what experiences have you had in the supernatural, whether it be spirits, ghosts, aliens, cryptids, take your pick?
Yeah. So, like I was saying, I'm pretty sure that early on I was doing time traveling as a little kid. I saw a fairy when I was little that I was like very clear on that it was, not my imagination and I was not pretending. I then that was elementary school, and then I would say there was a pretty significant break until about 30 years old, and I was still a believer in all of those things, but I didn't have any significant paranormal experiences. But then when I was 30, it was just like all of a sudden one day, I just describe it as like a geode like cracked open, and I started seeing spirits and angels everywhere, like thousands of them. And I was working with a therapist at the time who was like encouraging me in this, and told me that she like had the same experiences and that she felt like she was supposed to teach me about it, which there was some boundaries that weren't like great between that therapist, but it did open me up to really like being able to hear and see both people who have passed and like angelic type. There was a real differentiation between those two. And when I started learning more about that, I decided like I really wanted to connect with ETs because I had always believed so firmly in them. And so I started meditating specifically with the request that ETs would connect with me. And after that was when I had my first ET experience. And then I've had like an ongoing relationship with this one ET since then.
So many questions on that one, but I do have to say it's fascinating because I have a life coach who's a Reiki healer as well that's been doing some free sessions with me in return for advertisements, all that good stuff. So shout out to Jazzy. But she keeps telling me if you meditate with the intent of finding your spirit guides, you'll find your spirit guides. And now you just kind of confirmed that for me. So I'm like, oh, crap. Now I got to go freaking find time to meditate. But because
I don't think they require you to like quote unquote meditate in any certain way. I think if you begin to regularly like even have a daily practice of before you go to sleep, like I would like to meet you, or I would like to meet my spirit guides. Or they, the spirits and the angels and the ETs, they all operate off of like strict permission. They do not show themselves unless they've been given permission, and they do not interfere unless they've been asked. So if you want their help, you really need to say, I would like your help. Or if you want to see them, you need to say like, I would like you to show yourself to me.
See, I have a feeling Travis Walton and Betty and Barney Hill might disagree with that theory, but it makes sense. I've heard people say that before too, though, that even if ETs contact you, they'll request permission before they go any further. Like,
yeah, I don't know what those folks would say that you just mentioned, but
you're saying you like 90s alien movies, basically. He's a nice movie. What the hell is it called? Oh, Fire in the Sky. That's the movie about Travis Walton. I don't know
that. I'll look it up.
I shamefully have yet to see it either myself. I watch a lot of movies for podcasting, so I
Uh-huh.
don't have time to watch movies I want to watch half the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, Fire in the Sky is about Travis Walton, and Betty and Barney Hill were the first ever alien abduction like big case in America, really, and
Yeah.
they pretty much were all taken against their will. Like they
Yeah. See, I think that's like a really separate. Maybe what I'm saying is like, if you want to work with the guides that are like, have your best interests in mind, they won't interfere unless you give them permission. But I don't know about this whole other world of like, being taken against your will and maybe beings who have malicious intent. I don't have any experience with that.
I thankfully not, but because there's a thing called anal probing for a reason in science fiction culture, and it had to come from somewhere. People just didn't make up a story of, oh, these great things stuck into my butt. No, I mean it had to come from somewhere. Like it's just I mean. But then again, it's been hypothesized multiple times that there are good and there are bad extraterrestrials, and depending on the race, or not even the race, maybe. I mean, look at humans. There's good and bad
I was just
humans.
going to say it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's no like, I believe there's always like a balance in the universe of everything. So I don't know why we would think that ETs don't have similar things that we have.
I mean, yeah, they would have same societal norms to some degree, I'm sure. But I mean, just God, it actually makes me think of Secret Invasion since I've been watching that since it came on Disney Plus a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of like that whole. It's like it's that whole idea of an alien race on Earth, and some of them want to help humans, some of them want to get rid of humans so they can Earth themselves. So I mean, it's the same idea. Just made me think of that, and it's current. So I like to bring up some things that are current in pop culture if I can.
Yeah.
So the extraterrestrial that you still communicate with it, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually got a tattoo like in their honor, and then I haven't heard from them since then. So that's a little confusing, but I'm just trying to be chill with it. Whatever they want, I trust them.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that as being like you're letting people know we're there, like stop it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit too open. It's also around the same time that I started talking to people about them. And interestingly, this is the tattoo. It's like two octopus on my elbow because they have the body form when they're like on their planet is more like an octopus, and I like have a version of myself that's also on their planet that's more like an octopus. So this is like a symbol of our connection there. But I have had pain in this elbow since I got it too, which is really weird.
Synchronicities, I'm telling you, synchronicities. But
yeah,
which I mean, they look like octopuses though. That to me that's trippy as hell because people have hypothesized that octopuses are an alien race for a long time. Like
yeah, which I didn't realize until I looked it up because when they came to my room, they had just like more of a normal like gray form, and they told me later that they came as that because they didn't want to freak me out, and they knew that was like an association that I had that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It really does. It makes sense, and I can get behind octopus or octopi being extraterrestrials because they are intelligent creatures, and it just doesn't make sense that they would be what they are on Earth. Like, why would they be these creatures that live in the bottom of the ocean just eating stuff off the bottom? Like, you think they'd have more of a purpose on Earth if they were meant to be intelligent creatures on Earth. But
and scientists can't explain like the majority of things that octopus can do. So it makes sense. And the planet that like we're from is like a completely water planet. And there's like a lot of like whale type and like dolphin / porpoise type species there too, which I've always thought that whales and dolphins are like definitely extraterrestrials too.
Oh, it makes me think of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when all the dolphins leave in the beginning and they sing the whole goodbye and thanks for all the fish song.
Oh, I haven't seen that either.
Oh my god, that's a sci-fi classic. Like,
Cool.
yeah, it's literally the first scene in the book and the movie is the dolphins all going to space.
Nice. Yeah, it makes me think of that. I think it was Star Trek when Spock or like goes and swims with the dolphin. I mean, with the whale. Do you remember
Yeah,
that? And like
I,
talks with the whale.
I haven't seen like the whole thing, but I've seen clips of
Yeah,
it, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah. So
I mean
beautiful.
I mean it is, and I don't know. Water creatures are one of the weirdest things out there
Yeah,
on this earth, and that's exactly, Dave. I like that. What about the shooting ink thing that octopuses do? Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's a defense mechanism, but why ink? Like, why do they just happen to have ink in them? And
yeah.
I mean, all that led to is them getting killed for people to write stuff. But I mean,
And what was that cool movie where the creatures that ET creatures actually used ink to communicate and they had like octopus tentacles for their hands? What was that movie called?
okay,
It
nice.
was
Now you stumped me
so
on a
good.
movie.
It was so good. Let me see if I
um,
can
was
Google
it?
it.
Was that? No, it wasn't Signs. I yeah, I'm not sure honestly, but I mean,
Um,
a lot of sea creatures could be extraterrestrials. I could see that. I mean, we have sea monsters, and they can't. I honestly don't believe they were always on Earth. I believe they were. A couple of them came here and ended up staying here and just had a big old family over time, and now they're
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. The movie was called Arrival. I super recommend it.
Oh,
It's excellent.
oh, I have I seen that? I honestly don't remember. I think I have, but I can't. I honestly
Yeah,
can't remember. I've
the
seen
book of it is really good too.
Hmm. See, I mean, I don't. So, do they give you a name for the race by chance?
No, and I've tried to figure that out or like a name for the planet, and everything I've Googled about like octopus, extraterrestrial species is like, oh, octopus are extraterrestrials, not like there's a species that is like octopus. So I don't know, but my like contact, when I asked their name, they said it's an algorithm. So it's not a word. It's just an algorithm.
Oh, or yeah, yeah. I mean, or it's just simply something humans can understand. Probably if they're that more
Yeah.
advanced, then I mean,
And my name there is the sound that a wave makes, which I love.
interesting.
Yeah.
And Dave, yeah, I agree. Narwhals probably are extraterrestrial because they're
They're
too
so
damn cute.
cool.
They're too cute and too cool to be from Earth. I swear. But I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I can believe that all the mammals and cephalopods in the ocean are not from Earth. I can believe
Yeah.
that. I mean, the fish definitely I think are from Earth, and I mean sharks are definitely from Earth because they've been here for freaking ever. But I mean, and megalodons are still alive, so you know it goes on and on. But I don't know. It's weird. I mean, and so how did this? When the contact first started, it was because you reached out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was meditating for, I think, a couple of weeks before they came. And that night they just came and it was very brief. And like I said, they looked like a very small gray, like really friendly, really just like sweet, non threatening. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. And I was like, you came, I'm thrilled. They were like right here where I'm sitting right now. And I was like, I want to go like with you to your ship or something. And they were like, no. And they just left. And then for like weeks, maybe even months, I was like, I want to see you again. Like, please come back. And then just one day randomly, they showed up and they were like, so now I'm just going to be here all of the time. Like, whenever you want anything, just tell me. And I'll be here to support you. And so I could feel them like with me all of the time for a big stretch of time. Like sometimes I could feel them like sort of like put like an arm around my shoulder or like just that they were like standing next to me, and it just felt super supportive and encouraging.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us would love to have that type of support from more
Yeah.
advanced creatures who probably can teach us things that we don't know, or how
Yeah.
to deal with issues in a more intelligent way than humans typically do. But
Yeah. It was so great. I loved it. And then I started to have this feeling like they were giving me so much that maybe they wanted me to like do something or had a purpose, other than just like making me feel good, you know? And
Yeah.
so I sought out, like, I watched like every YouTube and like read every article and tried to find like other people who talked to their ET and like found out what they wanted or whatever. And I found this person who does like hypnotherapy, to talk to like with specifically people who have had ET experiences. Um, and so I met with her and we did the hypnosis, and it was awesome. It was just like so fascinating.
see, I've had hypnotherapists on the show, a couple of them actually, or a few of them actually, I think,
Uh-huh.
but I never had it done. I wanted to have it done, but then also part of me is afraid of what will come out during it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, even I don't know what's deep inside me, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I'm not that deep a person. Like
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you have had contact if you're doing this podcast, at least in another like timeline, because
in a
it's
past
one of
life,
those,
maybe.
yeah, it's one of those things that like I'm sure you're here for a reason, and that there's a knowing in you that results in your curiosity.
I mean, I've always believed, same as you, since I was in elementary school. I mean, I
Yeah.
was always drawn to that one book on Bigfoot. So I mean, I
Yep.
always was. And then once all that stuff, once they start putting all those shows on TV, like Monster Quest and Monsters Mysteries in America, like I loved it. Like I was
Yeah.
all over those shows, and I
Yeah.
used to just binge them and watch them over and over again. And I mean,
Yeah.
X-Files scared the crap out of me as a kid, but when I got older, I loved that too. And I mean,
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about last night was, do you remember that Unsolved Mysteries one? I loved that too.
yeah, I watched the reboot of it that Netflix did. It's good, but it's just not paranormal enough for me. It's too many serial killers and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah, that I don't want to know about. Yeah.
I mean, I find that stuff interesting. Don't get me wrong, I do, because I mean, being in the paranormal means you're into cults and serial killers to some degree if you're bringing a show about it. But I mean, and they do. I mean, cults fascinate me. They do. But
yeah,
especially the ones that have to do with extraterrestrials, like those ones.
Yeah.
Like I forget their name. They made fun of them in the movie Road Trip. Oh, not Road Trip. Dude, Where's My Car? They made fun of them in Dude, Where's My Car? Like they were the ones who wore like bubble wrap all around their body. And
I don't know.
They ended up all committing mass suicide because they said the mothership was coming.
So sad. Yeah, I'm sure you have like a parallel life somewhere or a past life. And
I was actually supposed to have a past life reading done months and months ago, and I say this on every show that it comes up on. I keep forgetting to contact the previous guest who was going to do it for me, and
you should totally do it.
I want to. I mean, but the hard part is getting 4 hours uninterrupted so she can do it. Like it's just like, but I mean, I can work it out, but it's just, I don't know. It interests me because I want to find out who I was in the past life. Like,
it's so validating. Like when I had it done, I was like, oh, my whole life makes perfect sense now. Yeah, it's super interesting. And the hypnosis, like I would encourage you to do it because you are still aware. Like you're not totally unconscious. So like if at any time you were like, this doesn't feel good, you would be able to say like, I don't want to do this. You're able to pay attention to everything that's happening.
Oh, okay. I mean, every hypnosis I've ever seen has been like on a stage or actually now the ones on stage people are still conscious. They just do what they're told, no matter what stupidness is. But
the thing that I thought was wild because the person like tape recorded it and played it, like sent it to me afterwards. And just the way that I was talking and the vocabulary that I was using is stuff that like I would never say. And I was talking as myself on this other planet. So it was like that part was really validating because the way I talked was just like so clear, so confident, so concise. Like I was answering all her questions. Like she would be like, "Oh, well, what about this?" And like, what is your ET's name? And I was like, "Oh, it's an algorithm. Like it's not a word." Like I would never think of having someone be named an algorithm, you know?
Yeah, like those are the things that are buried that we don't consciously think about, but we know them. Like it's just
Yeah. Yeah. And she was like, "Did you like travel in a spaceship here?" And I was like, "No, we don't need that. And we just like show you all UFOs so that you like can like understand that we're coming from somewhere else, but like we just like teleport and we don't need ships at all." And like all this stuff. It was really amazing.
But do you think that's true of all extraterrestrial races, or do only certain ones have teleportation abilities?
I mean, from stuff that I've read about, who's that guy, like Dr. Greer or something like that? What's his name?
Oh,
He's a government guy who is trying to expose like the government's knowledge around ETs. Um, and he says that a lot of those UFOs are like fakes that the government uses to like try to keep people distracted.
Stephen
Um,
Greer. Stephen
yeah,
Greer.
there you
That's
go.
right.
There you go. Yeah, Dr. Greer. Yeah. So that was kind of the vibe I got from what um my like ET self was saying during this hypnosis. But I think it's totally possible that there's like a variety of species doing different things. And there were questions that she asked that I was just like, "Oh, there's no way I could explain that to you." And when I asked, like, "Is there something that you want me to do?" They were like, "It has to do with wave technology." And like, you wouldn't understand it. And I was like, "Well, can you please try and explain it to me?" And they were like, "No, it's not worth it. Like, you'll know when you know." And bizarrely, I'm now doing this like nervous system regulation, like training uh, that has to do with sound frequencies, which are waves.
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
actually, a good question here. Why haven't they made contact with us yet? As like a whole.
They have.
But I think what Dave's asking is why haven't they done it to a point where like all humans know they exist without doubting?
Because the government has controlled it.
Okay, that I can believe. that I can believe in a second. That's where I was going to go with it in a minute too. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean the thing that just came out, right? The guy who's the whistleblower for the government, who's talking about non-human beings, and he got the like deal with Congress to be able to be protected. David something. Did you hear about that?
I think. I mean, I'm not big on news by any means, but I think I heard about that through the grapevine of the paranormal community. But
yeah, let me look it up real quick. That just happened. David Grush.
oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, UFO whistleblower. So he is saying like he's been working for the government and they've been actively like basically shutting up or killing off people who are attempting to expose this information that ETs have been with us since definitely the 20s, and that it's all like super documented, and that there's bodies and spaceships all in the possession of specifically the US government, and like other governments are working together with them. So I think that's the answer to that question.
oh, it's definitely. I mean, whatever you believe in, whether it be the Illuminati, the NWO, or even the Freemasons, like there's some global organization that's stopping it, and then I don't know why it gives me a very X-Files like feeling of like why they're hiding it. And
well, if you believe in that stuff about the Anunnaki, who were the like race of aliens who basically like created us on Earth to mine gold. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I've heard that theory. A lot of previous
If
guests who write books about Atlantis like to bring that up.
yeah, if you believe in that, then the Anunnaki are like in contract with specific like Earth hybrids who are supporting and facilitating their like rule of our planet. And so that would be like the Illuminati or the Freemasons. You know, there's probably like different factions who have like different roles, just like we have different governments who all operate globally together. But I think there are, you know, there's species that have like excuse me, certain like they have things to gain from us, but then there's other species that have things that they want to give to us and support us with. So like a lot of the nuclear weapon stuff, how there's been like when they have fired them in the past, there's evidence that like all of them were just like disconnected right after being fired, and folks think that there were ETs who were just like protecting us from blowing ourselves up and also protecting us from impacting like intergalactic stuff by use of nuclear weapons. So I think it's like a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been in my theory that there has to be an intergalactic council of some kind. I mean, it's on
That
every.
came up in my hypnosis.
I mean, there has to be, because I mean, in every science fiction show ever, there's a intergalactic council, and
Well, and I had never heard that phrase until my hypnosis. And she said, like, oh, how did you decide to come here? And I was like, well, when I went to the Intergalactic Council, and I had like the perfect picture of like these one beings who had like very pointy heads, or like a pointy like Pope type looking hat, and she was like, afterwards she was like, yeah, so you mentioned intergalactic council, like literally every single person mentions that, and they always have the like people who are in charge have these like pointy heads or hats. So that was wild.
I mean, there's a name for that race. I can't think of them, but and Dave said, since I brought up Secret Invasion from Marvel, do we believe that there are humans out there that are disguised as humans like us?
You mean ETs that are disguised as humans?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you had a little typo there, Dave. I didn't even catch it when I read it. But yeah, there are aliens out there that are disguised as humans. Like,
yeah, I think there's lots of us like me who are like parallel life that we're also something else in the intergalactic, and that like I'm here as a human. I'm not disguised per se, but I am disguised.
There's a difference, and I'll get into more about what I think. I'll get into more about what I know about what you're talking about. But what Dave was talking about is, you know, how they say reptilians can wear human skin basically and look like us. That's what he means. Is like they basically are wearing human skin suits and that they look like humans, and no one would know they're physical extraterrestrials on this planet unless they chose to show themselves.
I mean, that sounds very possible. I think that when you get that feeling around someone that you're like, something is really off, I think that could be definitely possible.
I mean, I've always believed that if there are reptilians and if they have had underground secret cities since the beginning of our time, I mean, because from what I've heard from people who believe in Atlantis and have written books about it, I mean, and why I believe in Atlantis, I shouldn't say people who believe in Atlantis, but people who have discovered truths about Atlantis, is that at the time of when Atlantis was a city state, there was reptilians and Palladians and other species on Earth that were basically fighting over Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think eventually, well, what's commonly believed is that eventually they just decide, let this species grow and see what they do, and then we'll deal with it in the future at some point.
That sounds like reasonable.
Yeah, which I mean, it makes sense because, and that also will explain the supposed underground city in LA that reptilians have, because if they were around since the beginning of time, they had plenty of time to build it. So, but what you were talking about, and I was actually going to bring this up eventually anyway, but I'm glad we got to it this way. You are, well, let me ask you this. Have you heard the term starseed or indigo children?
Mm-hmm.
That's the term I would put like kind of put you under if you believe that in like a pet and that you are extraterrestrial in spirit or that you were in a past life. Like that's
Yeah.
that's what I've always been told starseeds are, and that's how they feel, is that they don't belong on Earth, that they belong elsewhere.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely like, I used to even ask my parents, like, are you sure I was not adopted? Because I was really convinced. And I'm one of those people who have always said, like, I do not feel like this is like where I'm actually from, or that I fit in, or that whatever. But I thought it was interesting when I asked, like, why did I come here? Or like, how did I come here? They were very clear that like I went to the council and they offered me this opportunity, and I didn't like 100% want to go, but I made the decision. So that feels like, it was ultimately like my decision, and I wasn't forced, which I think feels right. Like I have always felt like, this isn't quite where I belong, but at the same time, I don't feel like I resent being here. There was a point when I had an NDE and I came back, um, where I was very resentful and I was really upset about being back here. But eventually it came around to me feeling like, okay, I'm glad got mosquitoes.
Yeah. It's Massachusetts, of course.
Yes, they are. They're extraterrestrials sucking the life from
I wouldn't freaking doubt it
roaches
one
and
damn bit.
mosquitoes, right?
Wouldn't doubt it. Wouldn't doubt it. I swear to God. But okay, but I need to go back to something you just said that I need to touch on.
Yeah.
NDE. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Did not know that part. And I've had a few NDE experiencers on here, and if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
what did you see when you went to the other side? Because that's just the thing it is. Like that's always the interesting part, because everybody I've ever talked to that experienced one has different experiences. It's never the same.
Yeah. I have you read the book by I should keep a list of all these references because I always forget them.
You're preaching to the choir here, but yes.
Yeah, he was a neurosurgeon. Yeah, Dr. Eben Alexander, and he wrote the book Proof of Heaven. So I had an NDE where I did not have like the white light or like people greeting me, and I didn't have like a like life review, which those are very common NDE experiences. But my NDE experience was like extremely similar to Dr. Eben Alexander's. And when I read that book, I was like, thank you, finally someone else had like one like me. So mine was like, it felt like I was in what was reality, like versus like going to the other side. It felt like I just was in what was the actual truth, and that going back to Earth was like going into a virtual reality video game that I was like so clear was not the actual real thing. So it was very like blackness, but not in a scary or uncomfortable way. It was more like womb like, I would describe it, like total blackness, but I felt like very held and very like nourished and very like like all those words that they use for God, like omniscient, omnipotent, like all powerful, all knowing. Like I felt like I wouldn't have even been able to say that I was interconnected because I just knew that I was everything. And it was like so vast, but at the same time, like very close. And it was just like I don't know how, like, the most there, if someone had said, like, are there any problems here? I would have been like, what is a problem? Like, it wouldn't have computed. Like, it was so without pain. Um, and it was just huge. And there was like no I, or there was no identity. There was no like differentiation between anything. It was just everything all at once. And it was so beautiful. And I can still really feel it. And I was really lucky because when I had my kid, when I was in labor, like 20 years later, I had a very similar experience. And I think it was like him exposing me to where he was coming from, like in that moment of him like transitioning from that world or that reality into our world. And it was just, that was just like amazing, because I never thought I would get to go back there like while I was still alive. So I can very easily like feel it, think about it, see it. I feel really lucky.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say it's lucky, but I'm like, hey, you feel lucky almost dying?
I
Like,
do, because now I'm not afraid of dying, and I'm not afraid of anything in the same way that I used to be. Like, I used to think like I had, like, it mattered a lot what happens here. And now I can like release from most things, because I really know, like, for sure. I know more that is for sure than anything I ever do here.
all right. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, if you get a certain comfort of it, then I could definitely see that, and I could understand why it would be a lucky thing. I mean, see, I am an experiencer of like basically nothing, so it's so hard for me to compare anything to my own personal experiences, because just like over here living this boring freaking life and nothing happens to me, you know. But it's just it is what it is. This is my purpose here. That's why I've been told, and that's why I believe. But
Have you
so,
ever had like a really good nap where you wake up and you're like, that was delicious? Have you ever had like just like a delicious nap?
yeah, I not often, not in a long time, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that. I know that
That
feeling.
is like a little sneak peek, because I feel like we go there when we sleep. Like
I
a
mean, it's
little
possible.
taste.
It's been hypothesized that, I mean, actually, the guest I just had on earlier today, he is a I forget what you would call me, but he studies consciousness,
Oh,
and
cool.
he believes that where the oh yeah, and one of his beliefs is that dreams are just another dimension that we go to, and that they kind
Yeah.
of that when you're in the dream dimension, you can cross over to these other dimensions that
Yeah.
extraterrestrials come from, that we, or at
Mhm.
least that, or where they are. And I mean,
Yeah.
his whole thing was that basically it's all radio frequencies like
Yeah.
overlapping, and that's why
Yeah.
we see UFOs and other things like that. So
Yeah, totally. It's like little blips, like, or like glitches. Yeah, I 100% agree. And this thing that I experienced in my NDE, I would say the best word that we have for that would be consciousness.
interesting. I would see. You know, when you want to have a near death experience, but you don't want to have a near death experience, it's like it's a dilemma. It's a dilemma.
It
But
is a dilemma, but I really think, Jeremy, like, you could ask for these experiences. Have you?
see, I like you was brought up Christian, and I became an atheist and then agnostic eventually. So I don't have a habit of asking for anything from anybody, because I just don't
Yeah.
believe it's ever gonna. I don't believe if I ask for something, it's ever gonna come true. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's just my.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the underlying mindset in my head,
Yeah.
basically. But I don't really. I mean, I don't know. I just I don't go around like I mean that's not true. Sometimes I'll sit there and like in bed before I go to sleep and I'll be like, I want this to happen. Like I'll try the whole manifestation route and see what happens, and just very rarely happens. So I'm just like,
Have you ever had synchronicities?
Oh God, yes. I am a huge believer in synchronicities.
Well, there you go.
But they never mean, they're never anything important. They're just little synchronicities here and there that don't really mean anything.
Like what? What's one that you can think of?
At this point in time, well, actually, I guess one of the biggest ones is I've had a lot of people I interviewed on this show that either live near where I live now, or did at one point, or they live where I grew up. Like they either live near where I grew up, or they grew up where I grew up, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like it's just like small world connections, like 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 the 6 degrees separation type thing.
Yeah, yeah, like that happened today with us.
Well, yeah, basically it's that type of thing. But like, I don't put much thought behind it. It's just like, okay, well, I mean, it's a big world. I didn't meet everybody in it, so I'm gonna meet people that live near me.
Yeah, but what if that's the universe trying to be like, Jeremy, we're here and we love you and we want to like give you a little pat on the back?
Oh, trust me. I mean, everything I'm doing, I believe I'm doing because I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I don't know for who or for what or for how, but I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I believe that. And like that's how I live my life, is making those decisions based on that. But it's just like, I don't know. Is it too much to ask for a fucking sign? Just saying. Is it too much to ask?
Well, it's not too much, but you do have to ask.
Oh, I've asked for a sign from the big goddamn smoker. But I've asked for a sign from the big G a lot of times, and especially when I was younger, and it just never got shown.
Yeah, well, maybe that was maybe that there's no big G, but you could ask for like something simple. Have you ever listened to Suzanne Giesemann?
Can't say I've ever heard the name.
She's awesome. She's like a medium, and she specializes in talking to people who's someone in their family has passed and they want to contact them, but she teaches people how to like use mediumship in their daily life just for their own personal benefit, not like as a job. And she has some really beautiful meditations that you might like. That's just about like, you just wait and you just ask I'll tell you an example of how it worked. It's so cool. But you just wait and you just ask like, guides, what are you going to use to show me? And then whatever pops into your mind, you keep track of that and wait for it to show up. And like the first time I did this with my kid, who is only 11, he said, I see like a bow and arrow. And I was like, oh God, we're never going to come across a bow and arrow, right? And I was like, I don't want him to be disappointed or think it didn't work. And then the next day, he was doing his homework and he was like, I can't figure out this one. No, it wasn't a bow and arrow. It was a teepee. It was a teepee. I knew it was like Native American imagery. Okay, it was a teepee. So I was like, you're super never going to see a picture of a teepee anywhere or see an actual teepee, right? Next night, he's doing his homework. He's stumped on a problem. I come over to be like, okay, you need to do this next problem. What is on the page? A teepee. The math problem was about the dimensions of a teepee. So
synchronicity.
They're just dying to tell you. And when I at one point I asked for all the spirits and angels to not be visible because I was in a relationship that was stressing out my ex and she was really freaked out by it. So I eventually asked them to stop and they haven't come back. But during that time when I saw them, each and every person had like at least 100 spirits and angels around them. So you definitely have like a whole right outside where you are. They're all just sitting around you waiting to help you.
Yeah, it's probably one of those freaking scenes where they're all sitting there looking at their watches like, wake up, wake up.
No, like he has a whole fucking podcast about this and he won't even ask us.
I maybe I need to start putting more effort into the asking. Actually,
Yeah, try it.
instead of just cursing every freaking day because my dogs wake me up early and I don't have time for anything. But
You know what you could ask for? You could ask that your dog doesn't wake you up barking, that you wake up before your dog barks. See what happens. Say, will you wake me up before my dog barks?
yeah, but then I get woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, "Why am I awake?" And then 5 minutes later, the dogs will wake me up again. And I go back to sleep and be like, "God damn it!"
But you might also know that somebody's listening.
Mm, I'll have to give it a try. I will. But well, I wanted to give a little time for you to talk about your book.
Oh yeah.
And I believe you have a podcast as well. I believe
I actually have I don't have a podcast, but I have a YouTube channel and it's actually about
okay.
sewing. So
Well,
I am like definitely a jack of all trades. I have a lot of different interests, but the thread that like ties them all together is that I really care about people like feeling better about being on this planet because I know it can be really hard and my NDE was from a suicide attempt. So I really care about people having like resources and practices to make life feel better, even when the world around you is really out of control. Because, you know, that effort to control the world, it just never works and it will drive you crazy. And I have really found, yeah, a lot of resources and tools and strategies and skills that help me feel pretty sane most days. And that's what the book's about. And that's what my sewing YouTube channel is about. It's just about like using sewing to support yourself with mental health. And the book is all about understanding like compassion and boundaries. And that's what my like professional work is about. I train people in this nervous system regulating listening program, and then use this other tool called the work. That's by Byron Katie. That's about like just questioning your thoughts and realizing that a lot of our suffering has to do with our thinking and not with like the actual reality.
that makes sense. I mean, it does because I find myself all the time having to tell myself like think about this another way, think about it in a bigger view, and then it's just okay, it's not that big a deal. It ain't that big a deal. Just go on.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about Bigfoot and all the land cryptids? Do you think they're related to extraterrestrials?
Yeah, I think they're very wise and have like they're really interested at the same time in keeping to themselves. So I think that they're like an interesting overlap of like they're here with a lot of technology and wisdom, but they're not really here to like interact with us. I don't know if maybe they got like left here on accident or don't know how to get home or something like that. But I definitely believe in them. And I have a friend who has one that like lives in the forest behind her house, and she like regularly has interaction with them.
Really interesting.
Mm-hmm. They like Snickers. She leaves Snickers candy bars for them.
See, part of my overall grand theory of the world is that Bigfoots are alien prisoners on Earth. That they were kicked out by the Intergalactic Council of their planet, and they were forced to live on Earth as a punishment.
That kind of makes sense with what I was saying. Yeah.
Or the other possibility in that theory is also that they are put here to kind of be wardens of human beings.
Yeah. Yeah, my impression is they don't really want to be involved with us, but it sounds like you're very connected to them. And there are a lot in Massachusetts. So have you ever invited one to make contact with you?
Can't say I've ever invited one. I've wished and wished and wished and wished to see one from a distance because I don't want to get up close with one. And the July 4th celebration starts.
But, it's early, yeah. Have you
I don't
ever
wa-
put out like an offering?
No, because I've yet to see any proof of any around my house. I don't think the woods around. I don't think the woods around my house are deep enough.
Maybe not.
But I don't know. I mean, I live, as you know, close to Leominster State Forest, so they have
There
been
you go.
sighted there a lot.
I know. Yeah. There's a lot in Mass. I think it's a pretty big population here. And they've been sighted since like indigenous folks sighted them here.
Oh God!
So
Oh
it's
God! The Bridgewater Triangle is full of them, supposedly.
been- yeah. But
But
I think they really appreciate like a gesture.
I mean, my kids leave food out all the time, so come get it, squashes. But it's better than get thrown out. Just don't freak my dogs out and have them wake me up, please. That's all I ask. But which I'm honestly surprised I'm not barking at the fireworks right now. But I don't know. I just feel I don't know. I mean, I believe they exist 100%. I would love to see one. I would really love to be able to communicate with one, but I don't know if that will ever happen or not. I mean, or how I would even communicate. But
you could telepathically communicate with them for sure. I telepathically communicate with the ET. I think that's the universal language.
It is. I just don't think we all have it unlocked and the ability to do it yet.
Sure.
Because, I mean, as Dave said a little while ago, and I'm sorry, Dave, it took me 12 minutes to do this, but we only use 10% of our brain, and that's very true. We only use 10 to maybe 20% of our brain, if that. And as I was just saying in my last show I did today, that's what the other 80% probably holds, all these abilities that we either somebody locked them away in our brain so we can't use them, or we lock them away ourselves. It's just the way it is.
Ooh. And also, like with everything I've learned about the nervous system actually, like the communication pathway between can't handle
I'll be out.
Thank you. Yeah. So the like communication highway between the nervous system and the brain is actually only 20% brain to nervous system and 80% like nervous system to brain. So we actually have a lot more technology in our bodies and in our gut and like our digestive system than we are taking advantage of. And like, especially in a lot of ancient Eastern traditions, the digestive system was considered like the brain. And when they have that, saying like, oh, trust your gut or your gut instincts or like go with your gut, all of that is reflecting that like actually we have so much more information that we have left subconscious. And all you have to do is like pay attention to it and learn about it. And then you get to access that information.
Good timing. I think they finally killed most of them, I think. But geez. How much money do you guys spend? My God. But
it's funny that they're doing it today, right? Isn't it tomorrow?
Oh, they do it all summer here. I mean, I used to too, so I can't complain. But all right, well, where can people find your book? Where can they find your YouTube series? Just basically promote yourself to the fullest.
Okay, so my website is called anexperiencer.com. So anexperiencer.com, and everything's there. And I would love to connect with other people. It makes me so sad when people like think they're the only one. That's why I love that you are doing this podcast. Like, I think everyone really needs to connect so people feel less crazy and less alone. There's some really wonderful people out there who have had all these experiences, and I think it's really good to connect. So there's like a form you can fill out on there to reach out to me, and I would love to connect with anyone.
Well, there you go, folks. If you feel like they can help you in any way, then please reach out, and that'd be amazing. And I'm sure Gazit would love it, and it would make their day. So I am going to wrap this up, and I am because I don't think these fireworks are going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah.
I am and my dogs are now barking at them. So I am very happy to have Gazit on tonight. It's been an amazing show. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you for having me.
any extraterrestrial experiencers welcome on this show by any means. I don't get enough of those. As soon as I saw your message, I was like, yes, yes. Like, please do come on. But
well, I can't wait until you have your first experience and you share about it, because I really believe that for you.
Well, anybody listens to my show will hear about it if it happens. I'm sure of that, but that'd be my first solo episode, probably. Damn, but all my listeners, you know where you can find me. Anywhere you're listening or watching this, please like and subscribe. Help my community grow so I can help promote more people, like Gazit, for instance, and more. I mean, hell, I've interviewed 160 something people at this point, so get their word out there. Get their word out there, people. But I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for watching, and I will be back. I want to say Thursday with another interview, but we'll see. And have a good night. You can find me on Facebook as Jeremy Bryant, or you can find me as Uncensored, Unapologetic, and Untamed UQ Podcast Collective Facebook group. You can find me on Twitter and the Instagram as @JugglerBastard, or should I say X now. And you can find me on TikTok as @JugglerBastard Podcast. You can also find me on YouTube as Paranormal the New Normal. And you can also find me streaming on YouTube as Blind Knowledge Network, because all knowledge is blind until they admit Bigfoot exists.